The Mantis and the Cricket.
Tales from the tours.
England has suffered in the Blitz.
Because of the war and things like that, this 1949 side has to be the closest knit side of all time.
It's him waving to us, and we're waving back at the tear for rolling down our cheeks.
There's a tendency nowadays for the public and the players to take overseas tours for granted. International schedules are published, plans are made, and the new World Championship of Cricket allows our administration to plan 5 to 10 years into the future. Not so in 1949. At that stage, we'd had 3 tours to England over 22 years. And while there'd been glimpses of true ability and class from some of the players, they couldn't sustain it. We'd lost money, and regular contact hadn't yet been formed. You've also got to remember there were no tours against the West Indies or South Africa, Pakistan, India. Australia had decided not to play us anymore, and so contact with England was critical. Now the 49ers knew that, and they accepted that responsibility, and they determined that they wouldn't fail. As always, performance on the field of play was critical, and it was that consumed them.
It's an entirely different mindset from what we're used to today, where there were no restaurants. You just couldn't go. You stayed as a team. Probably because of the war and things like that, this 1949 side would be has to be the closest knit side of all time.
The more we talked about cricket, the more we teach ourselves about cricket. And 49 was distinctly different. I regret 37. I regret that, not that I was delighted to be a member of the party, but I regret that I didn't learn more in 37.
We'd go back to the whatever pub it was, and someone says, "Oh, Runty Smith's just got a cake from home." Righto. What's his room number? And we'd all go up there and have our cup of coffee or not. If they didn't have that, we'd go to someone's room and have tea and toast sent up, you know.
Merv Wallace in particular was a tremendous teacher and raconteur of actual experiences of the 1937 team and what he did in Auckland. He coached in Auckland, as well as running his very successful sports business. He was a great one for the youngsters. And we were still on rationing, you see. We were still getting food parcels from New Zealand. And we'd get the fruit cake and cup of tea in his room or my room or somebody's room. And we would be dancing around there, playing off spinners and ducking bouncers. And
what, there'd be a few of you?
There'd be 8 of us. And it wasn't arranged anything. It was just, you talk cricket. These days, they can't get away from the ground quickly enough. They get into the room, they get a video, you get room service and a video, that's it. 2 of them. 2 here and 2 there and 2 somewhere else in the hotels today. We didn't do that. We used to have friendly team meetings, not organised, and just sit around and talk. How do you play an off spinner? You know, do you stand outside leg stump and try and hit them through the offside? No. Do you walk across the off stump? And do what you do. And we had a bat, and we were dancing around there. Sometimes we didn't have a bat. We had a stump or a poker. Or
You go up to the room with the red cost parcel,
Yep.
the cake,
Yep.
and you'd all arrive up there and have a cup of tea or coffee or whatever you were having.
Yeah, not everybody at times, you know. I mean, it could be, oh no, I can't come tonight because I've met some people that I'm going to go and visit, or I'm going to have supper there, and you know, all the ones that were there. But in the main, they mostly were there.
Yes.
Mostly.
And what would you do? You just talk about the game?
Talk about the game, and you know, order tea and coffee or whatever it is, and it soon miles away the night before you know, oh Christ, time to get to bed. You didn't have to have curfews and say, no, let you buggers get out tonight on the booze tonight or anything. I mean, jokers just went, bedtime, right, away they'd go. We enjoyed everyone's company, you know. It developed really, in the main, like a family. It became a family, all with the same ideas and the same desire to do well for one another. Everyone's pleased like hell if you've got runs or got wickets, you know.
Merv would be the master, and he was there controlling the whole set of situations. It was great. That's why I learned it all. Jack Cowie was another one. Martin Donnelly was another one. Would talk about cricket and you know what you do on the field.
For the first 6 weeks or 8 weeks, I gave a talk in the morning before we left for the ground about the previous day's play, and that was always on the basis that I was going to be wrong from time to time in decisions I made. You know, I said if I can get them 80% right, I'm very happy, but I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to ask questions, and I will tell you why I did things. But there will be no arguments about it, because what's done is done. But I will always give you an explanation of the rationale which motivated me to make a certain move.
And would anyone ever question things?
Yes, there were questions. Why did you not take so-and-so off after so-and-so, or bowl Tom Burt from the other end, or whatever? Yeah, it was good, because it gave everybody an opportunity.
Yes, this level of communication breeds a strong esprit de corps throughout a team. And as a player, you feel that if you fail, you've let others down. Now, this evolution of team spirit occurs only when players make a psychological contract of I want in here and it can't be bullied. And as an extension of that, players feel a pride about the team within the wider community. And by all accounts, in 1949, the wider community of England made extraordinary demands on this side.
To discuss the day's play every night, and then they'd be away somewhere to a theatre and away at receptions and things. How they did it, I don't know. Marvellous effort by Jack Phillips and by Walter Hadley, but the whole team also.
I love to keep saying this, it all stems from the 49 Team to England. And that's where we learnt what camaraderie meant. When we come from all over New Zealand, we had one chap on that side never played a first-class game before he'd been on a 5 months tour of England. You know, we kept losing him on board ship. Someone had to go out and find him when the team talks on, that sort of thing, you know, he wasn't used to it. And so in that sense we were lucky to have time to get to know each other, but the manager made the rules. You can imagine what it's like just after the war. And requests came in, holders, bowlers, for the team to be here, there and everywhere. So management got their heads together then. I mean, it's only later on that you find these things out. And they must have said, righto, we don't want to turn anybody down if we can possibly help it. So at the start of the week, we'd have a meeting and the manager said, righto, we've had invitations to this, and this and this. This swimmer and so, and then 3 days later you're somewhere else. But he said, now, we would like, if possible, at least 2 of the team to be there to represent the team. We can't all be there, wouldn't be fair. But he said, whenever you say you'll go to a function, you go.
1949, they still did a lot of the social things. They still had they went and were visited. Every town they went to, there was a mayoral reception. You have a look at the photographs. There's somebody with a set of chains around their neck shaking the hands of every player. They visited factories. They visited clothing factories. They visited Royal Dalton. They made a lot of those things. And they did spend a lot of time going to boys' clubs.
After the tea interval, the King and Queen came out onto the field to meet the teams. Hadley presented his men.
We got showered with stuff in 49, you know. Got a little washing machine, little washing machine. You know, I think everyone got one of those.
And you brought that back on the boat?
Yes, that's back in the boat. But you see, they flower those well. They came from Stoke-on-Trent.
Yes.
You know, that was sent home to me, and I didn't know what it was, so when I opened it when I got home. Incredible.
Little fridges, yes. We were given them. I was given one.
So it was like sort of Father Christmas has come.
Well, we didn't want to take it, seriously, but they wanted us to take gifts of great satisfaction to see New Zealand cricketers play in England in 1949.
I've still got some dense gloves. We don't wear gloves in this country, really, but I've got some driving gloves and I've got some woolen, leather gloves with wool in the middle, and I bought some gloves home for Norley. I think she's worn hers out, but mine are still there, in prestige condition.
That's great, isn't it? From 1949.
Yeah, we went to Royal Worcester. We've got some nice plates somewhere. I don't know where they are. They're out there. With our own autographs on them. We bought dinner services and cutlery services, all at not the right price, but a good price. Raincoats, I remember.
Coats,
Yeah. There is, yes, yeah, that's right. We didn't get too much cricket gear. We got basic stuff. But I made an arrangement there with Grey Nichols, which I used for the next 20 years. Can still get a bat if I need one. And I took his bat, one of the Grey Nichols bats, down to the Antarctic.
And down there.
Yeah, and hit the admiral of the deep freeze operation over amongst the polar bears. Oh, that's polar bears are north. Sorry, still there.
Oh, the picture was just coming through nicely.
That was a full toss.
Oh.
That was in every way a special tour. As you say, they were facing they had to put up with the hardship that the British were putting up with, still with quite severe rationing, and they would be seeing all the bomb sites and things, and seeing England had suffered in the Blitz and suffered with the V1s and V2s, and sharing that with them.
17th of June, 49. After breakfast, an early walk through Southampton. Again, one cannot help noticing what a nicely laid out city it is, and how much it has suffered during the war. Somebody said one high explosive bomb landed on every acre of the city on an average. The shop Bastics have some lovely club ties. Have had a haircut for 1 and 3pence. Buy a cherrywood pipe for 4 and 3pence.
Round St Paul's, not in St Paul's, but all around there. Oh yes, it was quite evident of it. See, wasn't it? See, it wasn't. Well, that was a fair while, really, 4 years or more, but it's still there. It didn't fix itself in 4 years. No, devastating. Let's say food. I went to some people's. They saved up their meat coupons all week, and there was 4 in the family, and they asked me down on this Sunday for dinner, and because they had a little thing about that high, about that long, that was their meat ration for the bloody week.
Here are some of the team taking a look at London soon after landing. If they haven't yet experienced cricket weather, they may be sure at any rate of a warm welcome.
Walk after dinner went for a stroll through the streets. This city has taken a belting in the war years. Shops are nearly all single-storey, like Ballantyne's, temporary structures. Roads repaired in different coloured surfaces.
In some cases, it looked as though it just happened. It was just all the bricks and rubble was just all hanging down in the streets, and there seemed to be women and things in other places, chipping all the mortar off and stacking all the bricks. And, oh yes, it was still pretty devastated.
You know, we went to Berlin on that trip at the end, and I'll never forget the sights of the German women, masses and masses of them, just working away, picking bricks of buildings that had been demolished either through the war or knocked over afterwards, just chipping away to make them usable again.
They distributed food parcels. There was still, we're talking 1949, we think the war's over and everything's picked up and it's right, but it wasn't right. And so they did all the good things. There was a wonderful High Commissioner for New Zealand, Jordan, in England. The publicity they got for New Zealand was marvellous.
And we distributed food parcels to the poor in London through the High Commission. They used us to distribute food parcels from New Zealand.
But the 1940s began with war and ended with Reconstruction. And it was into this new world order that the 1949ers arrived.
Towie is a fast medium bowler likely to lead the attack. Hadley is the New Zealand skipper and a polished batsman of wide experience.
It was important to me to apologise to the team on one occasion when I got out just before lunch at Lord's in the Test match. I hit a ball from Eric Hollies to deep square leg, mid-wicket really, and was caught by Jack Robertson on the boundary. Now, I had just had a severe leg injury. Nevy did not play in that match, but the fact was that the medical staff gave me a pill to take to ease the pain, and I thought, well, I'll take two, make sure.
I could walk, but I didn't run for about a year. I walked as quickly as I could, but basically, no, I couldn't do any running. That's why I didn't play any cricket.
Right. So you were on the tour at that stage.
But they wanted me to stay. On the 49 tour, they wanted me to stay. And I said, yes, I will stay, I want to stay. And Wal Hadley agreed, Merv agreed, Martin Donnelly agreed, and Jack Phillips agreed that I could stay, provided I'm 12th man for the rest of the tour. And I said, no, provided I want to be 12th man, and I was, for the rest of the 49 tour.
So what did that mean when you were 12th man for the tour? What did that actually mean?
I learnt a hell of a lot. I learnt a hell of a lot about the guys. I helped them with their clothing. I helped them with their mail and so forth. I went out to the ground with water and so forth, and I learned a lot by watching every single game.
Actually, you mentioned mail. That just sort of occurs to me, of course. I mean, mail is pretty important on a tour, isn't it? When you're that far away.
It's the postman.
The postman. Watch out for the postman.
I took two pills, and when I went out to bat, after about a quarter of an hour, I had what I suppose you'd call today a high. My feet were going well, and the ball was hitting the middle of the bat, and I was seeing it as big as an orange, and everything was lovely, and I was so confident that I got a bit careless. And I played this shot without even being aware it was the last over before lunch. And I meant to hit it just behind square, but it's pitched in a little bit of rough, and I hit it too early. So I was caught. The umpires lifted the bails and walked off.
You walk through from your dressing rooms up above, and then you walk down the stairs, and then you walk through the members, and you go out through the long room, and it is quite a long room, and you go out the glass doors in the middle and down the steps onto the ground. And it slopes up towards you at that stage, so you're walking sort of downhill out to the middle. And I remember these guys looking at this young guy, you know, with their MCC ties on and their blazers on, and sitting on high perched seats so they can see out the window. Here they go, this young guy comes out and walks down there, plays over a half volley, first ball. A half volley, and walks back again. And I'll tell you what, that's the longest walk I've ever done, because these guys looked at me again, you know, and they said, well, we've seen him once, that's the last time we'll see him.
I felt dreadful. What have I done? Suddenly it dawned on me, what have I done? You know, I let the whole show down. So I didn't go to lunch. I sat down in the dressing room and I pondered what I should do. And I thought there's only one thing to do. When the chaps came back from lunch, I just asked them to gather round. And I said, I owe you all an apology. I did something that, if you'd done it, you know what I would have said and thought. So what can I say but I'm sorry? And all I can ask is that you try and make up for it for me. That took a bit of doing.
We were getting ball by ball, and you listened as a kid, crackling wavelengths. We've all done it, and it was marvellous.
Well, that'd be John Arlott.
Absolutely. It was Arlott, Swanton, all these people coming over the airwaves to you, and sounds coming over it. And I remember as a boy listening to Martin Donnelly nudging a single 200 at Lord's.
Marvellous.
This was like Hillary climbing Everest all over again.
I'll never forget Martin Donnelly padded up, ready to go out again. He took 3 steps across the room, put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Leave it to me, Ed. I'll make up it for you." That was the bond. He was 126 not out that night. Simple as that. That was the bond. Went on next morning to get 206 not out. I think he must have scored that 80 in about 70 or 80 minutes, hour and a half at the most. But that was the bond.
Martin Donnelly made a great 206.
Probably because of the war and things like that, this 1949 side would be has to be the closest knit side of all time.
We were all so delighted to be there, I think, and the associations, even now, all these years later, we still get together and it's just like someone coming home, you know. And we've done that ever since 1949. You know, not living in one another's pockets and that, but you know, it's just like ringing up your brother or your sister or something, really.
I said once, not long ago, when we were having a bit of a reunion in Auckland, I said, you know, the fact is that we all loved one another.
Must have been hard to say goodbye to someone like Martin, because you'd built that closeness.
Well,
you particularly, you got on so well together, the two of you.
I get emotionally disturbed. I cry when I think of that occasion. And I'm not the only one, because Merv felt the same. And we could see Martin on the wharf as the ship pulled out, and gradually the wharves got more distant. We could still see him waving to us, and we're waving back, and the tears were rolling down our cheeks. Then we noticed him what we thought dab his eyes. It was a tough parting, but it shouldn't have been, because we were going home to our families, and we would have been away 8 months or 8.5 months. But we had a special understanding and bond. And it will never die, as long as I live.
Kindred spirits. Yes, the contours of 1949 formed a peak in these men's lives, and they formed a brotherhood on a 10-month pilgrimage and cultivated lifelong friendships that outlast declarations and overs and run chases. These were men of an era, men who were shaped by the depression and the upheavals of war. They had their own mission to define ourselves. And the battles were fought on green fields and in the trenches of cricket's political acceptance. And I've no doubt that they raised the level of consciousness of the game, both here in New Zealand and in England. And the legacy they left was one of access and status for future generations. And now, dear viewer, maintain your status quo in life by your continued access on Sky to the Mantis and the Cricket. Tales from the tours.